What's happening, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of the Talk Nerdy With Me podcast. Sorry we missed a week, but we are back and we're here to talk about all things video games. And I'm joined once again by James Creel. How you doing, James?
Pretty good. Have the day off, went to the aquarium, got a haircut. I feel a lot more free.
I also got a haircut and I just feel 10 times more free. I mean, it's just less weight, you know?
Yeah, it's just all gone.
Oh, nice. But yeah, glad to hear that you're doing well. And I'm also glad that you got to have off a day of work with the public holiday.
Yeah, great times.
Yeah, it gives you more time for some video games, you might say. And luckily, because that's why we're here. We are here to talk all about video games. And if you haven't listened to the show before, this is the podcast that revolves around video games where we talk, discuss, argue, and just chat about the things we love about video games. And remember, if you want to be a part of the show, you can write into the email address talknerdywithme21@gmail.com and go give us a follow on Instagram at talknerdywithmepodcast. And this week we got an awesome show for you. We got a whole lot of details about the PlayStation 5. And we're just going to be jumping right into them, specifically going over the PS5 showcase or conference that they had last week. So we're going to dive right in. So I'm going to start off with just kind of summarizing the information we got out of it, and then we're going to go through the announcements from the conference. So just to summarize, basically...
Sounds good.
The PlayStation 5 is coming out on November 12th in selected countries, including America, Australia, the UK, and some others, and then has a worldwide release of November 19th for the rest of the world. They announced that the PS5 Standard Edition will be $499 in American dollars, and the digital edition will be $399. So for us South Africans, that translates to 12,000 Rand and 10,000 Rand respectively. And there was a bit of a mess with the pre-orders because they happened to go up the day after the announcement of these prices and the release date, and no one was really sure about it. And I think most of the announcements about when pre-orders were happening that actually came through Jeff Keighley over Twitter, which is quite funny. And
yeah, Sony said in a statement months ago that they wouldn't just drop pre-orders on a dime. That they'd say to you, like, look, pre-orders are going to go live on this date, and they'd give you a big heads up about it.
But anyway, that's the main information we learned with regards to release date and price. And then there were a whole lot of cool game announcements, but we'll get to that later. For now, I want to talk about, this is probably the most important thing from the whole show. So James, we'll just go straight to you. Did you manage to get a pre-order? Which edition did you get? And was it quite a hectic process to get one?
Yeah, so I looked at it on the day that it went up, and I was like, okay, cool. I've got work today. I shouldn't be doing this right now because it was like in the morning. And then I looked at it. It was like a drop 1, it said, or it was like PS5 pre-order on BT Games. I was like, okay, I can do this afterwards. I'm sure there aren't that many South Africans that watched it. Refresh the page a minute later, gone. And I felt so sad. Refresh the page for the next like 2-3 minutes, and next thing, one popped up. It said drop 2, and it's like, this will come 2 to 3 weeks after the first drop. So I was like, screw it, pre-ordered it immediately. So I dropped 12,000 Rand getting the standard edition, and I just pre-ordered that instantly. And yeah, so I was going to get it 2 to 3 weeks later, but 2 days ago, or yesterday, no, it was just yesterday, maybe 2 days yesterday, I got an email from BT Games being like, hey, your order's been upgraded to drop 1. And I'm like, oh, damn, that's cool. So now I'm getting my PS5 on November 19th. And that's going to be cool because that's the same day that Cyberpunk releases. And that's also the same day then that Miles Morales and all of that will release. So I won't have to get Cyberpunk and play it on my PS4 and then play it on the PS5 and just hope that the data will take crossover. I can just play straight on PS5, and I'm really excited about it.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy for you. Unfortunately, I didn't get a pre-order. I was, first of all, I was too late to get one from like BD Games, but I'm a bit hesitant to get one on day one just with regards to like my PS4 I only got last year, was my second PS4 because my first one broke. And after they announced, there was a few announcements that they had at the conference that we'll talk about a little later that kind of reiterated my feelings of like, all right, I'm going to wait a little bit. So I'm hoping to get one either in December or early next year. But I had a similar thing to you. I went on a site and looked at the pre-order, and I added they only had the digital edition left, and I added it to the cart, and then I told you about it, and you went and checked it, and you were like, no, they all sold out. So I refreshed the page, and I saw it was all sold out. And I was like, oh my. Anyway, I came back a week later, went on the same site, and I noticed my cart had a little one on the notification thing, and I clicked on it, and it was still in my cart, and I could have ordered it, and I was like, and then I clicked refresh, and then it was like, okay, it's gone. And I was like, okay, never mind. It obviously was not meant to be, but it's all good. And I'm still deciding if I want to get the standard or the digital edition.
It's probably for the best that you don't get the digital, because if you've got any games like The Witcher 3 that you want to take forwards with you, I think the way Sony's backwards compatibility is working, or even the upgrades, you need to have be able to put the original version of it in.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I don't, because I know CD Projekt said they're giving a free, like, not just like a backwards compatible version, but a free, like, redo of The Witcher 3 if you own it. But Sony's had this weird thing where they've said stuff like, if you got Spider-Man PS4 on a disc, then you need to have the standard edition to play it on PS5. Like, they're not going to register that you bought the disc. Okay, here, you can take it digitally now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably will go with the disc with the standard edition. I think the reason I was thinking about the digital only was because that was all that was left, and I was really wanting to be there on day one with the PS5. But we'll get there eventually. But I agree. I think in the long run, an extra 2K is worth it for like the amount of games I might not be able to play because of not having a disc drive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will probably. But the other question I then wanted to ask is obviously, the week before or 2 weeks before, we found out about the Xbox prices, and very competitive between the two. The Xbox Series X, which is the more powerful version, is $499, so 12,000 Rand. And the Series S is $299, so 7,000 Rand. So I just wanted to ask, what do you think of the PS5 announced prices compared to the Xbox?
I think that makes sense, because while you could say that the digital edition of PS5 is supposed to compare to the Series S, because they both are digital only. It's not really, because the digital only Xbox, the Series S, is also less powerful than the Series X. Yep. Whereas PS5's digital edition is the exact same power as the standard edition. It just doesn't have a disc drive. So, the only difference is that while the Series S versus X it lacks a disc drive, a smaller hard drive, it's only able to do resolution up to 1440, not 8K. So it's a whole lot less spec'd, which makes sense for the price. So I think it's all well and like quite fairly priced, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think all of them make sense.
I think it's all very competitive, and it's nicely priced. I didn't expect the digital only PS5 to be $399. I thought it would be at least $450. I thought it would be a very small gap, but the fact that it's I'm going to speak in terms of South Africa. It's 3,000 Rand difference between the Series S and the PS5 digital only edition. And that's quite a good amount. And what I actually like about that, being a PlayStation fan, is like I've always wanted to consider getting an Xbox as well, and especially for Game Pass. And the Series S is the perfect box for Game Pass, because compare it to any other console, you are saving a lot of money, as well as Game Pass. The amount you're paying per year is probably the equivalent of buying 2 AAA games or 3 AAA games, and you're getting over 100 games, in your library that you have instant access to. So the prices, I feel, are so nice for consumers. From the point of view of someone deciding whether they want to get a PS5 or an Xbox on day one, I really think at the moment it's. If someone is really worried about cost, the Series S for the Xbox Series S obviously makes more sense, but I would still say the PS5 is the better of the two, just because of the exclusives it's going to have.
We still have to wait to see what happens with Bethesda. We still don't really know how that's going to going to stack up.
Yeah, that is very interesting. But yeah, I was really happy with the prices, and can't wait to get my hands on an order of a PS5, hopefully sometime soon. But anyway, then we're going to go straight into the showcase itself. And we're going to just go kind of through the announcements, and we can chat a little bit about each announcement if we feel like it. So the show opened with a look at Final Fantasy 16, and personally, I'm not a Final Fantasy guy, but I know you're quite interested in it.
Yeah, I'm not a big Final Fantasy person, but I really do like JRPGs, and I haven't played Final Fantasy 7 yet, but Final Fantasy 7 is one I'm also quite amped to play when I can get it on a sale. And this combat system that they seem to have for Final Fantasy 16 looks like a mixture between 7 and 15's, where people said 15 was too like lightweight, I think, and didn't feel that great. But it was like very fluid and fast. And 7's felt a lot better in terms of being more like working with turn-based and not turn-based at the same time, being real-time. And I think this combat system just looks great. I mean, the graphics didn't look excellent, but it was like a very early showing of it.
Yeah.
As far as I could tell. And like the world, it being also another Japanese role-playing game that's actually set in like medieval times again, like in European medieval times, I find it to be really cool. Because I don't think there's been like a Final Fantasy like that for quite a while, since the last one was 15, and then 7 Remake is futuristic. So I just thought it looked so cool, and I was like, I was just completely there for it. Like, it looked just so amazing.
And another console exclusive. It will be on PC, but it won't be available on Xbox.
I wonder how much Sony paid for it.
Yeah, I'll be very interested. And then, sorry, it's a fly. And then the next game that they showed, something that excites me an awful lot, was Spider-Man Miles Morales gameplay, which was amazing. And the announcement that came along with it is, or I can't remember if they announced it during the show. No, it was only after the show. But they have announced that Spider-Man Miles Morales will be coming to the PlayStation 4, which was another reason, like I was saying earlier, is why I'm not getting a PS5 at launch. Is the reason I would have probably been pushed to get one on day one was to experience Miles Morales. Knowing that it's coming to the PS4, I'm happy to wait a little bit and play it, because I know how well the first Spider-Man game ran on PS4. So I assume that this game will run as well. I'm sure it will have some frame rate hiccups with the amount of stuff happening on screen, but oh my word, James, what a beautiful demo.
I know, like, it was really well done. And it genuinely did feel like the game felt distinct, like just the soundtrack, everything like that. Yes. It didn't feel exact. It didn't make me think like, oh, this is just a reskin of Peter Parker.
I agree.
Like Miles feels like he's going to be like he's going to have similar movesets and he's going to be acrobatic, but it feels like he's still going to feel very distinctly himself.
Yeah, and
which I think is pretty cool.
He you can see he plays differently. I was exactly the same. I thought he was going to have like the same gadgets and everything, but you see he's got more like powers, like the energy and stuff.
He's got invisibility. I think he's got the shocking type of stuff he can do.
So I love it.
It seems interesting.
I'm so excited that I get to at least play that on day one, even though it is on the PlayStation 4. But I don't mind load times. I'll take them. Anything for my boy. But yeah, it looked really cool. And then,
to be fair though, once again, who really fast traveled and experienced too many load times in Spider-Man?
Exactly. I think I fast traveled like once, and that was only if I really had to get all the way across. I don't even think it was for a trophy. I think I just got that naturally. I think I was just like right at the bottom of the map, and I need to go all the way to the top for something. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try it. But also enjoyed seeing the little like him on a subway loading screens.
Yeah, the little things he did.
Yeah, so I quite enjoyed that. But yeah, I probably won't be loading except for when I load in, and I'm not planning on dying. So you know, the next thing they announced was Hogwarts Legacy. Now, personally, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but James, you are a huge Harry Potter fan, so I got to ask, what did this do for you?
Honestly, I was so excited because, like, we've gotten Harry Potter games as like movie tie-ins, so of course they've always been like kind of terrible. I remember the one I had on PSP, and it felt like it had tank controls, like the fixed camera angles, and like, but that was partly because PSP you only had one stick.
Yeah.
So, but anyway. It just seems so cool to do it and like to have finally a Harry Potter RPG. But I've got so many questions about how it's going to work, like whether or not you're going to start as the first year and you're going to play the RPG experience throughout all your years. Because it also says you're going to do stuff that's not at Hogwarts. So I'm like, does this game go on past your time at Hogwarts and then you become like a wizard in the Wizarding World? And there's so much that I'm curious about, because this it seems quite expansive to not be like only in Hogwarts, but it's also set in the 1800s. Or late 1800s, which means that they have nothing to hold them to canon. There's nothing that they have to stick to because J.K. Rowling's not really written anything this far back, which is what's also cool. It means that this can actually be a completely original story with nothing that has to tie it to the later ones, except the building.
Well, I really have no information to go off and even like saying what I thought about it. It looked like a cool game. I guess the only thing I can ask, what house are you in Harry Potter?
From the Pottermore test, I'm Slytherin.
Oh, isn't that the bad one?
they're not bad technically. It's
Aren't they
just that
snakes or
everyone,
something?
yeah, they're symbols of snake, and they're while like so Ravenclaw's defined with intelligence as the main trait. Hufflepuffs are like caring and selfless and that type, or like caring and stuff like that. Gryffindor is bravery, and Slytherin is very much more ambition.
Okay.
So yes, lots of people who do evil things are most likely ambitious, but lots of people that do evil things are brave as well.
Okay,
So
that's interesting.
it's just that the books paint them to be the bad guys the whole time, and that no one trusts them. And I mean, when you tell people over and over, I don't trust you, eventually they're just going to be like, well, screw it then. Fine, I will be evil.
Nice.
Because if you're going to hate me just for this. But yeah. No.
Other games they announced, I'm just going to kind of go through this a bit quicker, but feel free to stop me if
Yeah.
there's one you want to talk about. So they showed some gameplay for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I don't think there's much to say about it. It was absolutely beautiful, but
It looked good, but I mean, it just looked like another COD to
yeah,
me.
I agree. Resident Evil Village, they showed a little kind of gameplay demo trailer kind of thing.
I'm still excited for that. I want to see proper gameplay.
But you haven't
wanna see proper.
played through 7 yet, eh?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But I've got it, and I want to finish Ni no Kuni first. Then I'll play 7.
Then Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Not much to say there.
I don't even know what that is. That just looks like Five Nights at Freddy's, but times 20. Like it looked huge, and I'm like, this is odd.
And then they showed another gameplay demo for Deathloop.
I got more interested in that.
Yeah, and
It
now
honestly got me more interested.
obviously with this Bethesda deal with Microsoft acquiring ZeniMax, and because of that Bethesda, and they've said that they will honor the exclusivity deal with Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. Is that correct?
Ghostwire Tokyo, yeah.
They will honor the exclusivity deal, but we don't really know what that means. So I'm very interested to see if that means that the game will then go to Xbox off. Or, yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I mean, it's too early to say, but
I don't know how. I can't remember if they ever clarified how long it was going to be an exclusive for. I don't remember if that.
Whatever duration it was meant to be, I'm sure it'll be slightly shorter now. The fact that we haven't had an announcement means they can change it without us knowing they've changed it.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. Then they also announced a DMC5 Special Edition. They announced, or they didn't announce, they showed more of Oddsworld Soulstorm. And then a huge announcement. They revealed the PS Plus collection, and this is something that looks incredibly awesome. This is for people who adopt the PlayStation 5 and are PlayStation Plus subscribers. You'll get access to a whole lot of games that you're able to download whenever you want, as long as you're a PlayStation Plus
genre
subscriber.
defining of the PS4.
Yeah, exactly. But this is an amazing list of games, and I'm just going to quickly go through the list and then we're going to talk about it. The games include God of War 2018, Bloodborne, Final Fantasy 15, Mortal Kombat X, Until Dawn, The Last Guardian, The Last of Us Remastered, Persona 5, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, Monster Hunter World, Fallout 4, Uncharted 4 A Thief's End, Ratchet & Clank, Days Gone, Detroit Become Human, Battlefield 1, Infamous Second Son, and Batman Arkham Knight. James, what do you think of the PS Plus collection?
I think together we own most of them.
No, yeah. The thing is, I think you and I have played everything except 2 or 3 of these games. But for
well, we haven't played Final Fantasy 15, Mortal Kombat X.
We played Mortal Kombat X.
The Last Guardian. Was it X? Are you sure we played X?
Yeah, we played X.
Okay. Then we haven't played Final Fantasy 15, Last Guardian, Monster Hunter World, Days Gone, and Battlefield 1 we played a demo.
Yeah.
So there's 5 games. So I think it's a great list, honestly, for anyone that's missed out on PS4. But I do question why, when we have the Nathan Drake collection, it's not on here, because I feel like it's a big loss to anyone who plays 4 but doesn't have the context of the first 3 games.
It's very true.
So I feel like that's a bit sad that they actually don't include that, because it's just like you're giving people the ending of a series without everything else. Monster Hunter World's a great one, because that means anyone who's getting it new has a multiplayer game to dive into with friends, along with Battlefield 1, which I think was very good choices. I'm very happy with it, because as soon as I get my PS5, I've been dying to try Days Gone and Final Fantasy 15. Like, those are 2 games I've so badly wanted to try at the very least, so having them for free is great.
Yeah.
Other ones, Monster Hunter World, I'm curious about. I'm very upset that they put Persona 5 and not Persona 5 Royale on there because I could have got Royal for free. And I would have been so happy about that. I'd just be like, yes, I don't have to buy it. I get to play Royal. But nope, my hopes and dreams are dashed. But otherwise, I think it's a great list. It's got a nice mix of like some exclusives and some non-exclusives, which I think is also pretty good.
I think this list is incredible. You can kind of tell it's Sony's kind of response to Game Pass and Xbox putting all their first-party games out on day one on Game Pass. This is kind of Sony being like, we'll give you a bit, and what they're giving you is actually a lot. But at the same time, they're also not giving us too much because they're not promising to add to this list, and they're not promising to release their first-party games on here day one at all. But the games you have there, like we said, we have most of those. But for someone who's been on the Xbox the last generation and is now coming to PS5 and they might have missed out on all these games, I mean, this is an incredible list. This can keep you busy for years, I reckon. There's so much content in that, and you're paying... PlayStation Plus is around 700, 800 Rand a year. 700
Rand a year, I think,
So to get all of this on top of it, I'm sure it'll stay the same of 2 free games a month.
I don't see that changing.
Yeah, the value of PS Plus, I feel, is just, it's so much better. It's on PS5. Obviously, you won't have access to these on PS4, so... but still, I think this is an incredible list. I think that... when I get a PS5, I think I can also see myself getting into Days Gone. I'd love to give that a try. I'd also probably put some time into Monster Hunter World. It's a game I've also wanted to try, but just never seen it on special. And then I'd probably give a try to Final Fantasy 15 as well. But yeah, as we said, we've played most of those, but I mean, geez, what a list. So that was a really cool announcement. And so now I just want to ask a question, James. What was your favorite announcement from the whole conference or show, other than the price or the release?
I honestly think it has to go to Final Fantasy 16 or Hogwarts Legacy, because both of those, like, there had been rumors of a Harry Potter RPG for years, and Final Fantasy 16, just before the conference happened, there was some rumors about it. But the fact that it was also a console exclusive made it huge. But like, seeing those two, a game that people have been hoping for years, being the Harry Potter RPG, and then just, I don't know what it was about that trailer, but it got me so hooked for Final Fantasy 16 that I just have to say those two.
Oh, nice.
They got me so hyped, and I haven't felt proper hype for games in a while.
My favorite announcement was...
I was like...
sorry, my thing just froze a bit here. My favorite announcement was definitely that Miles Morales is coming to PS4. And I mean, just, I can't even say anything else other than I'm just so like at peace now, knowing that I'm going to be able to play this game on day one. I could not have bared to listen to even you just be like, oh, Nick, I played Miles Morales on PS5 and oh, it's so incredible. And, you know, I wouldn't be able to sit there and not touch it. Like when Spider-Man, the original Marvel Spider-Man came out on PS4, it came out on a Friday and I was still at university and I was only flying home a week later when I had my holiday. And so I had to go for a week knowing, I think you started the game and I was for a whole week sitting there waiting, and I was trying to stay off YouTube because I didn't want to see anything. And it was just absolutely awful. And I couldn't have done that for a month or 3 months or 6 months. So definitely my favorite announcement. And then James, I'm sure you've seen here in the script that I've got a mystery question.
Oh, yes, I did. I was curious about that.
So your curiosity is about to disappear because you're going to find out what it is. James, the big question is, where was Bugsnax? And will Bugsnax be a launch title?
I think it is. It wasn't confirmed to be a launch title.
I don't know. But that is the big question. I mean, Jeff Keighley sadly did not let us know, so...
Nick, you are cutting out a lot.
I know. I don't know if it's my laptop or my Wi-Fi.
Let me just check something.
All right. Well, while you check, I'll kind of just iterate that. Bugsnax, you're more than welcome to send me a code if you'd like. I will review your game. Well, not even review. I'll play your game. I'll stream it. I will not promise to say nice things about it, but I'd like Bugsnax to be the first game that sends me a code. Because
it's being released in Q4 2020, so it is a December game.
Okay.
So it's I think it said December 2020, so it's not launch title, but launch window title. So,
Okay.
I mean,
That's good enough
yeah,
for me.
first 6 months of PS5 being out is Bugsnax release window, it seems.
Okay, good enough for me. Thank you.
I think you can't show your heaviest hitter in every conference.
Yes,
They had to give it a break.
I didn't think about that. I did not think about that. Very true. I mean, how can you have Bugsnax and Miles Morales in the same show? You know, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You need to spread it a little bit. But that was all we got through. Well, we've been through everything now from the PlayStation 5 show.
Well, you did forget one.
What do we forget?
They teased that God of War Ragnarok was a thing.
Sorry, I scrolled past it. Oh my word. Yes, they did a teaser for God of War Ragnarok coming 2021. James, what do you think? And did you expect this to come next year?
I didn't expect it to come next year because next year's like, we're getting Horizon Forbidden West. And then we've got Miles Morales right here at the very end of the year. So it's kind of like, I thought God of War would be like a 2022 game. Because I don't feel like Sony wants to have a year where they don't have any big exclusive to release.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if next year's got Horizon Forbidden West and already Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, I was like, I didn't think they'd put God of War there as well, because it just feels like they're all completely different games, which means they're not crowding a genre in their own exclusives. I'm just like, what happens then with 2022? Yeah. Like, what games do we not know about that you've got waiting for us for that?
Because it seems like 2021 is going to be an absolute cracker of a year so far.
So I'm just like, I'm not complaining about getting more God of War sooner, but I'm just curious what that's going to mean for like what exclusive Sony still has up its sleeve.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Aside from like a new Drive Club that I think, not Drive Club, a new Gran Turismo we already know about, but I don't know if that's also releasing next year.
Yeah. Anyway, but back to God of War, I'm so excited about it. I'm sure it's going to be really cool. And I look forward to the Ragnarok setting. But yeah, and that wraps up the PS5 showcase. And just before we wrap up the show, quick question, James. This comes in from Alex Wood, a friend of the show. And he says, if you could choose one game to have on PS4, a game from past or present generation, but it can't be an unreleased game, and this game that is not currently accessible on the PS4, what game would you choose and why? What game would you bring to the PS4 that you can't play on the PS4?
In all honesty, I'd probably give it as a toss-up to Mario Kart or Legend of Zelda. Because Mario Kart, like, we've got Crash Team Racing, but a party game to play with friends, like Mario Kart's just superior. And like, I've got a Switch, but the price on those Pro controllers and getting additional controllers, like their own controllers, sure. It's just so expensive. So if it was on PS4, which I already have controllers for, I'd just be like, yeah, that's easy. And Zelda, just because, I'd love to see what that team could do with a Zelda game if they had the horsepower of a PS4 or an Xbox, basically. So I'm very curious what the Zelda team could do with insane hardware.
That's cool.
Compared to what they normally work on.
Yeah. My answer is obviously my favorite studio is Insomniac, and a game of theirs I never got to experience properly, which I played a bit on my laptop, but I want to experience on a console, and that's Sunset Overdrive. So if I could, I'd love Sunset Overdrive to come over to PS4. I wish I could have experienced that game. It was the only game that made me consider getting an Xbox. And yeah, I just wish I could bring that over.
Yeah.
But that wraps up episode 7 of the Talk Nerdy With Me podcast. James, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
And yeah, just thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please drop a like and subscribe if you're not already. And remember, if you want to be a part of the show, you can write in with your questions, or you can answer a question at talknerdywithme21@gmail.com, and go give us a follow on Instagram at talknerdywithmepodcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.